good.
Rolling up. Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SC off. Bring in SC off. Off. It's orange!
Orange 25! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Décollage.
What is it?
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? We don't need any more of these.
And welcome back to NSF's live coverage of the Starlink Group 6-21 mission, which is now for real supposed to launch in just under 40 minutes. We have official confirmation from SpaceX this time that they're less than 45 minutes until launch of 22 Starlink satellites from Florida. However, teams are keeping an eye on the weather conditions at the launch site. So thank you to all of you who stuck with us. And thank you for all of the 5x5s in chat. I'll just reintroduce everyone. I am Trevor Sesnick, a writer, reporter, commentator here at NSF, and I'll be your host for tonight's launch. And then with us tonight is Alex. Alex, how are you doing after the little break we had?
Well, a bit more sleepy, but still with my energy back for our launch tonight. And yeah, let's see more launches. Why not?
Heck yeah. And then also with us, bringing us these awesome live views from the field, is Max Evans, a photographer for NSF. Max, how is the weather looking now?
Welcome back, everybody. Well, I'm pleased to report that the weather, it looks to be improving. The weather has, or I should say the wind, has, it hasn't subsided, but it has definitely decreased in velocity since we last checked in with you. And the skies are also clearing up nicely, and there is a waning gibbous moon, or maybe it's a half moon by now. I'm not sure. It just came up about maybe an hour and a half ago, and it is lighting everything up well. But I would say overall, things are trending in the right direction.
Awesome. Then bringing us these views from the background, making sure the stream is all beautiful, is Patrick Cahoon. So Patrick, thank you for doing what you do in the background. So, Alex, could you give us an overview of this mission? What are we expecting to see? What's being launched? What pad is it? What booster is it? All the good stuff.
Yeah, let's go back into it again. So, this is the Starlink 6-21 mission, launching 22 Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. Again, the target orbit is 284 by 294 kilometer at 43 degrees of inclination relative to the equator. The booster for this mission is B1076. It is flying for an 8th time. It previously supported the missions CRS-26, OneWeb 16, Starlink 6.1, Intelsat 40E, Starlink 6.3, Starlink 6.6, and Starlink 6.14. And now it's going for the 6.21, 26 days after that previous mission. So that is not a record, but again, it is pretty much down there sub-month, I guess you could call it. It is going to be landing on Just Read the Instructions, which is located about 630 kilometers downrange in the Atlantic Ocean to the southeast. It is another southeast launch trajectory with this Starlink mission, and the fairings, although we're not sure if they are reused or not, they're probably reused because this is a Starlink. They are going to be recovered by DOG. So, in the one interesting thing about that one is that it is being used. So basically, this fairing recovery vessel was used on the previous mission, Starlink 6-19. You could think that it was 620 that happened from Vandenberg 2 months ago. So no, it was 619. And as soon as it delivered, it delivered the drone ship, a short full of gravitas for that mission. It delivered the booster and everything. It basically went off again within 4 hours of doing that to support this mission. So it's quite a champ, because Bob seems to be a little bit down for a little bit more. But yeah, and obviously this is going to be going from Slick 40, as you can see down there in the ticker where it says Cape Canaveral. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all covered.
Yeah, and I see a bunch of people asking in chat why there's a crane at the launch site and how the crew access tower is coming. So, Max, do you want to give us a quick update on how that's coming along for SpaceX?
Sure can. So, for those who are, again, late to the party, SpaceX is building a brand new crew access tower over at Slick 40. Currently, they have 3 of 4 segments stacked. So, that crane is still there because there is one more segment left to go. The crew access arm is still being built as far as we are aware, but it is not over at Roberts Road. But as far as we know, there's only one more segment left to go before this tower is mostly completed.
Yeah, it has been quite impressive how quickly they've put up this tower. They definitely, I guess, have practice from building similar towers at 39A for Starship and then at Boca Chica, of course.
Oh, absolutely! It's been very very impressive because even since our last flyover, this tower, none of these segments were completed, let alone at the pad. And here we are, a month and a half later, and 3 of those 4 are stacked, and they're waiting on the last one, so that is tremendous progress.
Yeah, so that leads really nicely into a question that we have of when do we think that SpaceX will conduct the first crewed launch from Slick 40? I'll go around the horn. Alex, what do you think? And before you answer that question, I'll say we see a little bit of frost at the bottom of the booster now, which shows that SpaceX is into propellant load on the Falcon 9. So they are currently targeting 1:36 a.m. Eastern Time for launch, and they seem to be on track for that.
Indeed, we can see already signs of propellant load is underway, and I'm really not sure when is going to be the first crewed launch from Slick 40. We know that they're going to be doing cargo first, and that NASA needs to give the sign off for that pad because they need to run all of these safety checks for the crew. Obviously, when you want to put crew there at the pad, at this pad in particular, that's going to be the first time, right? So you want to make sure that all of the parameters and all of the designs basically meet the standards that NASA requires for these crewed pads. So the way that they're going to sort of demo that is first building it, obviously, and then they're going to be doing cargo operations first and then crew missions. So when do I think? I think maybe the second half of 2024, because even the next cargo mission, even though by then we'll probably have a full tower, I'm not sure it's going to be completed, and it is actually going to be from LC-39A, from the current crew-capable pad. That's going to be CRS-29, November 1st. It is the current date for that launch, and it is going to be launched from LC-39A. CRS-30, I believe it is, somewhere around February. That might be maybe the first cargo mission, from Slick 40. That's my bet. So cargo mission, CRS-30, Slick 40 for crew. I think that's going to be maybe second half of 2024, given the timelines for crew missions.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how much time is between cargo missions and crewed missions. And also just, I've been wondering how often they'll even use Slick 40 for crewed launches, because it seems like it works out somewhat well for SpaceX to have all of the Starlink launches happen from and customer launches happen from Slick 40, since they can turn around the pad so quickly, and then have 39A for the crewed and Falcon Heavy launches. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes when they have a second pad capable of launching Crew Dragon. Max, what are your thoughts on timeline?
Part of me wants to be bold and say Crew 8. Because I do predict that the tower, I don't want to say it'll be operational, but it will be at least completed by the end of this year. But you know what? I'm just going to be bold and say that they will attempt to use this tower for Crew 8.
That is pretty optimistic. I'm more on Alex's side, that probably quite a bit further out than that, but we'll see. we could all be very wrong. Let's see. So, Alex, you had mentioned that tonight's launch, right, is a quick turnaround time at 26 days, but by no means the record. So Matrix is wondering, how many launches do you think they'll get each booster to long term? And then also, what kind of turnaround times are we seeing for boosters these days?
Yeah, so right now they're targeting 20 flights per booster as their sort of maximum certified number. I'm not sure if they're gonna expand on that, maybe to 25 perhaps. We're not really fully sure. My bet is that maybe 20 is gonna be it. Like maybe they're not gonna do any more than 20. My reasoning for that is that when you go to 20, you're talking about a booster that has probably flown for 2 years, right? A booster that has been produced on 2023 and flies 20 times, I'm seeing it launching all the way to 2025, right? By 2025, if they are still producing more boosters, which I believe they will have boosters that are even better at being reused, not having to do as much work on them, which makes the reuse case even more, even more of a good thing for them, because they don't need to waste as much work time and money on refurbishment, because every single time they produce a new booster, it has all of the lessons learned from the previous boosters and all of the previous reuses. So I think that 20 seems to be the sweet spot for Falcon 9. Now, if you're talking something like Super Heavy, where they are planning to do, multiple launches a day, then it obviously makes more sense to expand something to 100 launches or 200 launches, whatever they can get out of that thing whenever they get to that point, right? But when we're talking about, and that sort of goes into the other question, these boosters are getting right now in 40-50 day ballpark for turnaround times. It is quite low. They used to be more like 80 to 90 days, so they are getting there. But I do not think they have that, at least not yet. I don't think they have the sort of pressure to go even lower. So right now we're seeing this booster 26 days. The record is about 21 days and a bit of a change there. And so we haven't seen since that moment, that was April 2022, we haven't seen any other booster being tried to be refurbished and reused any quicker than 3 weeks, right? So I don't think they really have that drive and that pressure. So I think right now that 20 flights, it's probably going to be the limit that they're going to be targeting. But hey, if they target more, sure, go for it.
Yeah, and I think you bring up an interesting point that SpaceX seems to, in some ways, have changed their philosophy a little bit, where it seems like before they were trying to rapidly turn around Falcon 9 boosters and have fewer cores in the fleet, when now they're willing to have a little bit larger of a fleet and fly each booster a little bit less often. And I think more evidence of that is, right, Elon a long time ago talked about a sub 24-hour and sub 1 week turnaround time of Falcon 9, which is, I think we can safely say, never going to happen.
Yeah. And I see some comments talking about, oh, they're not doing any more things to Falcon 9. Ooh, you couldn't be farther from reality, actually. They're still doing a lot of stuff to Falcon 9. We see them upgrading things on, as simple as cameras being upgraded to higher resolution and things like that, to just seeing less work on these boosters every single time they fly them. Like, we used to see them covered in patches of white. And that white was them cleaning up welds and things like that, because that's how they can inspect the welds. But nowadays, we don't even see those patches anymore. They don't even, stop or at least whatever method they use to check on that, they don't even clean those welds or anything like it. Like, they have gone to a point where they barely touch the booster these days.
It's also worth noting out that through data gathered from various Starlink missions and from how and from just basically how they've been able to push the Merlin engines. That's how they have begun to offer an RTLS trajectory for crewed missions over to the space station, because they figured out by pushing the Merlins at such a rate that they have opened up enough prop margin to introduce the possibility of an RTLS trajectory back to LZ1.
Yeah, and they actually also changed the propellant load sequence for these Starlinks. They try to get as much payload performance, and when you do these propellant loads as closer to T0 as you can, you're keeping them as cold as they can be. And so by doing that, they are denser, and so you can pack more of them onto the tanks. What that means is that effectively the whole rocket can lift more payload because you're loading more propellant into the same volume. You're not changing the tank size or anything like it, but you're able to load more. And so these Starlinks are actually going to the farthest limits of these Falcon 9s, where it's like the basically the edge of their performance, right? And they actually run these engines at higher thrust, apparently, from what SpaceXers have said. Officials like Bill Gestermeyer and things like that, they have talked about these Starlink missions having the engines running at a higher thrust profile because they can do that. Because it's their own mission, right? They just can't do it because it's their own risk. They take that risk, and so it is a lot of these upgrades that they can do here. And by the way, I mentioned that CRS-29 mission before. That one is also going to feature an RTLS. So that's going to be the first RTLS mission for a cargo mission with a Dragon 2. Because we used to have those with Dragon 1, but that was because it was lighter. But now, because they have found this upgraded performance on Falcon 9, this extra bit of performance, then they are able to bring back the boosters also for Cargo Dragon 2 missions.
Yeah, and I mean, we even see this in Starlink launches where SpaceX had said that when they first started launching Starlink with the 60 V1.0 satellites, those were 15.6 tons per launch, if I remember correctly. And that was about what the maximum that Falcon 9 could do. And now these launches are above 17 tons, and they're still able to recover the boosters. So there's been a lot of changes to Falcon.
It's worth pointing out real quick before you go on, Trevor, that we are about 2 minutes away from the biggest and best vent, as Crispy likes to call it.
Less than 2 minutes, actually.
We are 35 seconds away. So Max, what is the biggest and best vent, to use your words?
So basically, you are about to see a cloud. Oh, it's actually starting to rain a little bit here. That's not good. So you will, in a few moments, you will see I like to call it a cape of vapor pouring out from the transporter erector. And so what SpaceX is doing there is they are flowing liquid nitrogen through the fuel lines of the transporter erector to flush it out of any moisture or gas or unwanted substances inside the lines in preparation for stage 2 LOX load.
Yes, and it looks like
any second now.
We're still 10 seconds away. Appears that someone needs to change that clock.
Yeah, it looks like the second value is slightly off. So as soon as we see the vent start, that will be 20
there
minutes
she goes.
and 20
there
seconds.
It is. Yeah, it is.
There
It
it
is
is.
2020 now. Yep.
And you can really tell how windy it is based on how quickly that cloud is moving away, and it's basically perpendicular to the rocket right now.
Yeah, it is definitely windy out there today. And speaking more about increases to Falcon 9's performance that Alex and I were just talking about, SpaceX has also made some changes to launch entry and landing. So on some missions, they're now doing a single engine entry burn and a 3-engine landing burn. However, tonight's mission will be the usual profile, which you can see on our beautiful launch entry and landing shirts and hoodies. So you can see the 9 engines in launch configuration, the 3 for reentry, and then the single engine landing burn. So if you want to celebrate the awesomeness of Falcon 9's recovery, make sure you check out the merch at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. And then in the checkout box, you can leave us a message and get your question answered on air and get cool stuff in the mail. So it's a win-win. Oh, Patrick has a good question. What is your favorite booster? Mine has to be B1046. So yeah. And with that, let me go thank a few people for their support. The Cat's Minion became a Red Team member. With that, you get some awesome exclusive access, so hope you enjoy that, and thank you very much for your support. Keith became a PadRad member. Blackhawk gifted a Red Team membership. Jeffrey became a PadRad member. Bideford gifted 5 Red Team memberships, a very regular on our stream. Blushy Boy gifted a single Red Team membership. RC Horseman with another one. And Toemate became a PadRad member, so thank you all very much for your support. It enables us to do what we do, and yeah, we are just eternally grateful. And then we have a super chat from Ryan Weber, one of our writers, saying, I wish we would get more daylight launches. I think we all do. Max, I know you certainly wish there were more daylight launches.
I was just going to say amen to that. I wish we would too. I mean, as beautiful as these night launches are, just from a visual perspective, not being able to actually see the body of the rocket can be kind of a bummer sometimes. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, I also think it's kind of sad that like all of the launch photos look the same at night. Well, they're not all the same, but they look very similar when during the day you can have tons of awesome perspectives.
Without any captions, it becomes difficult to determine which photos from which, that's just a byproduct of launching at night.
Yeah. So that actually leads to a good question from River Dave. Is there any chance of a Luna fish tonight, Max? And I assume he means
probably a
jellyfish
lunar
from the moon.
jellyfish.
Yeah.
Yes. So we've currently half a moon, and it's getting dimmer right now. It is up. It has been up for around an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I could be a little bit off in that, but it is out. You know what? I think it might just be bright enough, assuming we have an actual visual on the actual plume itself, because there are some pesky clouds hanging around right now. But assuming conditions play nice, maybe. I guess we'll have to find out.
Yeah, hopefully. Those are one of the cool things about night launches. But on our screen you can see that the T-minus 20-minute vent has stopped. Alex, what does that signify now that the vent is over?
Well, now that the vent is over, it means that things are pumping through it. Because when you see, well, actually, both. It is when something is going through it, but when it vents, it's because it has nitrogen, and when it doesn't, well, it's because through that pipe is going the liquid oxygen to the second stage. That basically signifies the start of the liquid oxygen load onto the second stage of the Falcon 9. I usually tend to remind that this is something similar to what we see already at Starbase when they fuel Starship. So we see that oil vent and that tower vent, and it's sort of the same. They just cool down the pipes to be able to load that liquid oxygen onto the vehicle, so that they are able to load it without basically pumping cold stuff through a hot pipe, right? That's what you want. Obviously, it is at room temperature, but temperature, it is very hot for the chilly. I think it is minus 200 Celsius. So yeah, that is quite cold for liquid oxygen, and yeah, I think I explained it well. That it's basically a chill down vent. So when it stops, they start loading liquid oxygen.
Yeah, no, thank you for that explanation. Let's see. So, Max, here are 2 questions for you that'll combine into one. The first is, will the crew tower have a lightning tower? And then another question on that note is, the tower is missing the flashing light that we see on the 4 lightning towers. Is it going to get one at some point?
I don't think we know the definite and for sure answer to that. But judging on the height of the segments that we've seen and how tall we think it's going to be in comparison to those 4 lightning towers, I don't think a bespoke lightning tower for the actual crew tower is going to be necessary. And I also don't think it might get its own lights like we see on the lightning towers, but I'm not sure. But for the lightning tower, I don't believe so.
Yeah. In the meantime, we have some gifted red team memberships from Molly. So Molly, thank you very much for your support. Your guys' super chats and gifted memberships and store purchases and all of that is really what allows us to bring you guys this coverage. So thank you guys for choosing to support us. Let's see. Alex, here's an interesting question from Mendel. Now that Falcon 9 is super reliable and launching so often, what are some of the advantages that Atlas V has, and why may a customer choose to go for an Atlas over a Falcon 9?
Well, nowadays, I think no one can actually choose an Atlas V. But if they were to use an Atlas V, I really don't know, other than not wanting to launch on Falcon 9. I can mention a few companies off the top of my head, like Amazon or Boeing, which, frankly, that's pretty much all the Atlas V rockets left, except for one classified mission, I believe, that there is left for Atlas V, and the rest are Amazon's Kuiper constellation, and there's a Viasat launch as well, but that one, we also saw a Viasat launch on a Falcon Heavy. They were basically just spreading all the launches between different rockets, so they got more of a spread there. So yeah, if you look at the remaining launches for Atlas V, you'll see pretty much that it's just Boeing and Amazon. And so right now, if Atlas V was still around to be purchased, I don't think there's really any competitive edge for a customer. Vulcan might be a bit different, especially once it actually launches and has a track record, and it also is able to do dual launches, where you basically have like 2 big satellites stacked on top of each other, and you can launch 2 at a time. For now, they cannot do that for Falcon, because you will need the extended fairing, but Vulcan does have the big fairing for that. So in that case, you share a whole Vulcan in between 2. So you have maybe a launch that is $100 million, you actually have 50 per satellite customer. So it starts getting a bit more competitive in that case, but I'm not sure. I wouldn't be able to say. Whatever company's PR wants to say, they'll say it. But it's not my duty to say it.
Yeah, I mean, another important point, especially for the Department of Defense, is as the space shuttle showed us, you really want to have redundant access to space. And that is something that, Atlas and Starliner provide. So it is important. Anyway.
That shuttle. You are woke crispy in chat. I saw a big shuttle.
It's just perk up.
Let's see. Aussie Astronaut in chat is asking why 1046 in response to earlier when Patrick was asking y'all what your favorite booster is. I said mine is B1046. And for me, that's just because I think it's awesome, and it's what flew. It was the first Block 5 booster, and it was what flew the in-flight abort test. So I just thought it had an awesome ending, exploding after a Dragon aborted from it. So I just think it's super cool. Alex, what is your favorite booster, or are there too many at this point?
I think there are too many. I don't even know if I used to have any sort of. I guess 1021, because it was the first one to be reused, and there might be some updates about that coming soon. Let's keep it that way.
Interesting. Alex always has a way of surprising us.
The Block 4s were maybe a little bit prettier because they were all white. But I guess the white and black tuxedo look of the Block 5s is also pretty cool.
But keep in mind, there was the Falcon 9 Block 5 launch that was almost all white.
That's
I
true.
believe it was, yeah. Or was it B1051 when it was expended?
I think it was B1051.
B1049.
49. Yes.
49.
That one flew last year on the Intel sat. Was it? I think.
Yeah.
I think it was EchoStar. Eutelsat.
Eutelsat. Yes.
Yeah.
But either way, it launched last year, and that was the only time I've ever seen a Block 5 booster with a white interstage. It was really, really weird. Plus, also no landing lights because it was being expended.
Yeah. Yeah, the reason why that is because B1049 donated its interstage to, what was it, B1052, I want to say?
52.
So then they had this old test article interstage lying around, which was white, that they had rated for a single flight, so it made sense to expend it. And that was the only interstage they had lying around of the old design. So they gave that one to B1052, which also explains why B1052 was converted into a Falcon 9 core when B1053 was left as a Falcon Heavy side core. Let's see. Astro asks, I may have missed this, but are the fairings flight proven on today's launch?
I think it's safe to say. I think it's safe to assume so, given the very used nature of this booster and it being quote unquote another Starlink mission. But I don't think we know for sure.
Yeah, that is true. When they started reusing fairings, it used to be that they used to say on the website whether they were reused or not and what flights they had performed previously. But then they stopped doing that, and so it's like, nowadays, unless they tweet something or we don't really know anymore. It is very clear when they come and they are all charred and everything, but other than that, we don't really know.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a very safe assumption that they're flight proven because I believe over 90% of fairings this year have been flight proven. So it's not very common that they're introducing new fairings these days. With that, we are just over 6 minutes from launch. So, Alex, could you take us through some of the events that are happening now and what we expect to see up until a hopeful launch in 6 minutes?
Yeah, so right now they are wrapping up propellant load on the booster and the second stage. They probably already have finished kerosene load on the booster, and so what remains is just liquid oxygen load on the first and second stages. In about a minute or so, the Stromback right next to the rocket, now bit hidden by the tower because it's right in the middle of our way in our view. That Stromback will retract, will open the cradle arms at the top, there it will retract, and will be in position for the launch. And so right after that, we're going to see that booster getting fully topped off with a liquid oxygen. Then the second stage, we'll see the comeback of the Stromback vent, and that's going to be the sign that they have wrapped up liquid oxygen load on the second stage, which wraps up propellant load on Falcon 9. That should be about 1.5 minutes before liftoff.
Yeah, well, with that, Max has to go make sure we get these beautiful tracking shots of launch. So, Max, hope you enjoy it. Hopefully it goes off for you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I will see you on the other side.
So then, Alex, post-launch, what flight profile will Falcon 9 be doing today?
Yeah, so Falcon 9 will have approximately 2.5 minute power flight through the atmosphere, going southeast, basically in the direction of the Bahamas, and then the booster will separate from the second stage. It'll come back down through the atmosphere. It'll land back on the drone ship. Just read the instructions, and then while it is doing that, the second stage will ignite its MVAC engine. About 30 seconds later, the fairings will separate, expose the Starlink satellites to the vacuum of space, and then continue into orbit. The target orbit for today's mission is 284 by 294 kilometers, but they are not going into that orbit straight ahead. It's going to be first one burn, and it'll probably go about 190 by 294 kilometers, and then after it goes to half an orbit later, it'll go to the apogee, to the highest point in the orbit, and then raise that perigee to that 284 kilometer perigee that they are hitting, the lowest point in the orbit. So right now we are pretty much 3 minutes away. They are already about to wrap up liquid oxygen load on the booster. That means that the booster is going to be fully loaded with propellants and just few moments away from the launch.
Yeah, it's always, even though this will be Falcon 9's 261st launch, if I remember correctly, and it is still kind of exciting even after all of those launches. Let's see. First of all, I want to thank LJ Duke real quick for becoming a PadVad member. Hope you enjoy all of the awesome perks that you get from that. Let's see. Oh, now with this video from SpaceX, I think we can say very confidently now that at least the payload fairing half that we can see is flight proven. And Alex, do you by chance remember, is it the active half or the passive half that we can see from that view that we have on screen right now?
I believe the one facing out is the active half, and the one closer to the Stromberg is the passive half. And I just heard stage 2 LOX load is complete, so right now Falcon 9 is completely fully loaded with propellants ahead of liftoff. You can see that return of the Stromberg vent there as expected. That's normal. That's all that we wanted to see.
Yeah, this is also a great shot right under that vent plume of the progress that they've made on the crew access tower at Slick 48. That thing it's remarkable how quickly they're building it, like we were saying earlier. Anyway, we are 1 minute away from launch, which means that right now the Falcon 9 will enter what is known as startup and begin final pre-launch checks, and also the propellant tanks will pressurize for flight. Now that we're at 45 seconds, the launch director should have given his go for flight.
And there go for launch.
There it is, in 30 seconds. Then, as Alex was saying, at T-minus 3 seconds, the engine controller will command ignition of all 9 engines, and then if all of those are healthy and all systems look good, the rocket will lift off the pad, and we will stay quiet until after max Q. 10 seconds. And there's that green flash. And we have liftoff of Starlink Group 6-21. And as we can hear and see, that was a successful liftoff of Starlink Group 6-21 with the awesome roar of those 9 engines, which I love every time. The vehicle has now passed through max Q, which is a moment of peak mechanical stress on the rocket, and we are just under a minute away from first stage main engine cutoff, which is when all 9 of those engines that you can see on your screen will shut down. If we keep this view, we may be able to see the fact that they get shut down in pairs. Shortly after that, at T plus 2 minutes and 34 or 2 minutes and 28 seconds, the first and second stages will separate, followed shortly after at T plus 2 minutes and 34 seconds of SES1 of the second stage. We are 15 seconds away from that happening. And there we have shutdown.
Oh, I saw the pairs.
Yeah, I always love seeing that. And there you can see one of the pushers, and there's stage separation, and there's SES1, and there's the ring stiffener breaking away. That ring stiffener is just there to make sure that there are no vibrations in the nozzle during launch. That could lead to severe damage. Let's see. Now,
I really love the sounds. Ooh, look at that.
yeah, there's kind of the little bit of the lunar jellyfish that Max was talking about. That's light from the moon. And there goes the fairings.
Off they go. I really love the sound when it lifted off and I started hearing the VAV screeching.
Yeah, that is a cool sound. And we'll have to ask Max about that once he's back, because he always says that it's very different for every launch. So we'll make sure to ask him about that.
Yeah, and I believe he had animal companions around him, so maybe he could say whether those animals got startled by the launch or not. Probably they were, or maybe not. They're probably used to it.
Yeah. Right now we are 2 minutes away from the first stage entry burn beginning, which for this launch will be 3 engines. It'll start with the center E9 engine, and then the outer 2 engines, E1 and E5, will ignite. And that will slow the vehicle down and protect it for part of its re-entry, and that burn is expected to last 20 seconds. And then about a minute and a half after that, the landing burn will begin on the first stage, which will last 24 seconds and be with just a single engine, the single E9 engine, for a hopeful landing on SpaceX's drone ship. Just read the instructions at T plus 8 minutes and 24 seconds.
And you can see there now the telemetry is showing speed going up, altitude going down. Booster is past his highest point in his parabolic trajectory, the apogee, basically, of that point. So far, so good. It's quite a shame the launch. Oh, look at that! I was about to say that it was a shame that they were launching during the night because we cannot see the Earth. But well, at least we can see the interstage.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the interstage. I guess now's a good time, Alex. What is that we're looking at in that shot? Of course, it's gone now, but that central pusher.
Yeah, that's actually the central pusher. We could see some of the cables dangling. Those cables are usually to collect the remaining. Basically, when they chill down the MVAC engine, you need something to collect it. It's also for other purges as well, helium purges and things like that. So they are able to vent it overboard because the engine is right inside of the interstage. So you need a way to vent all of that outside of the interstage, and so that's what those cables are there for. So we should be coming up on that re-entry burn just a few seconds from now.
Indeed. And there it is. And now you can see it's on those 3 engines, since you see the little bit of a line in the exhaust, which isn't present at the start. Once again, this burn's expected to last approximately 20 seconds.
And there it
It
is.
is.
Now a bit
So
of plasma action here.
Yeah, so now as the booster gets lower and lower into the atmosphere, right, the density of the atmosphere increases significantly. So those grid fins that you can see on either side, or kind of see in the few pixels, those will start to gain more and more control authority, and they'll have to rely less and less on the RCS thrusters that we saw them using earlier in the booster's descent. And on the right, as always, the second stage is continuing on with its mission, and you can see the velocity of the second stage is increasing, and the altitude also increasing as it approaches that initial orbit that Alex talked about earlier.
Yeah, I might have actually overestimated the perigee of that orbit. It might actually be 160 by 294, which then gets converted to 284 by 289. But yeah,
Let's see.
we'll see. That landing burn should be coming up in just a few seconds. I think I can see the drone ship through the Griffin on the left.
Yeah, I
Light.
think so.
Here
And
we
there's
go.
the single engine. And you can see the grid fins moving, and they'll do a pretty substantial movement here in a second to dogleg over to the drone ship.
And
Successful
bingo.
touchdown on Just Read the Instructions, and that is SpaceX's 231st booster landing and 157th consecutive booster landing. And also back for comms, Max, how is the launch? How is the VAB screaming?
You know, I took off my headset right at liftoff, so I could get the raw audio, and it was glorious as always. And in fact, this westerly wind actually helped out the sound quite a bit because it carried that much quicker and it got to us that much quicker. Very, very punchy tonight, considering it's very humid tonight, and as we know, thicker air transmits sound much better. So very, very loud, and you know, after the VAB was done squealing it, and
Max, it appears you're very quiet to everyone.
how about now? Am I okay?
No, you're still pretty quiet.
Weird.
Anyway, yeah, he was saying that apparently sound was very loud tonight and very pungent, so we'll try to get him on. Meanwhile, I'll quickly hit a little bit of support we got. Molly gifted another 10 red team memberships. That's the second batch of tonight, so thank you very much, Molly. And if you got one of these memberships, make sure you thank Molly. And I hope you enjoy the access that you'll get. Then also, we have another 5 gifted red team memberships. So thank you very much for your support. Max, do we have you back now?
How do I sound now? Any better?
Yes, way better.
Wonderful. So as I was saying, I just finished up talking about how after most of the sound was downrange now, of course, when it gets a lot quieter down here, if the sound is strong enough, the alligators that are always looming around and patrolling as KSC security, they aren't too happy about being woken up or disturbed, and they begin bellowing. It's actually quite unnerving the first time you hear it, but after a while, it just becomes part of the experience. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, I remember when I was in Florida, even just seeing them, I was like, made me uncomfortable. I can't imagine having them bellow at your feet. And apparently, Max was very loud when he came back, so I apologize to everyone for that. we did not mean to wake you up in the middle of the night with super loud noises. Yeah. Let's see. I guess, real quick, Alex, what other exciting launches may be happening from the Cape soon that we will be covering?
Well, we have coming up next the Atlas V launch of Kuiper. We were talking about Atlas V earlier and about Kuiper. So yeah, that's going to be the next launch from the Cape. That's going to be Atlas V Kuiper protoflight. I believe it is on October 6th at 2 p.m. Eastern. It is going to be a 2-hour long window. So it can be at any point in that 2-hour window, but hopefully it is at the start of the window. And we can enjoy some Atlas action. It's going to be one without solid rocket boosters. So it's going to be one of those that goes slow off the pan. We're going to enjoy it more.
It's also the very last Atlas to fly with no solids on it. So it'll be very unique to watch it fly with a 5-meter fairing and no solid rocket boosters.
Indeed.
Yeah, from here on out, it's all Atlas 551 and N22, correct?
That sounds about right.
Yep. After that, we also have another Starlink 622, and then we have the big one, Falcon Heavy with Psyche, October 12th at 10:16 a.m. Eastern. From that pad. The rocket is not there yet because it's on the hangar, getting ready for integration of the payload. Soon, TM.
Yeah, that'll be a really exciting launch. But with that, I would like to thank everyone tonight for joining us. First, Max, thank you for bringing us these live views tonight.
Of course, and thank you very much to everyone else for coming along. And sorry if I was a bit loud earlier there, chat. My apologies.
Yeah, then Alex, thank you for waking up in the middle of the night your time to bring us all these awesome facts today.
I wish I could tell you that I woke up, but I actually didn't wake up. I was already awake.
Yeah. And in the background, we had Patrick Cahoon bringing us the beautiful views from Max's camera to the studio to your screen. So thank you, Patrick. And I've been your host, Trevor Sesnick, editor, writer here at NSF. And thank you all very much for joining us. Thank you for your support as always. And we will see you next time tomorrow for Atlas.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, Atlantic.
Water towers, fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange!
125! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Décollage.
Leaving!
Put that in the big bag, you know.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You read? Sure. We don't need any more of these.